Okay, I'm going to hand it off for the ending is Brian and Dan, who followed the fire all the way to Peru and back again. So I'll hand it off to you guys.
Good morning. Wow, we had an awesome trip. First of all, I would just want to say thank you to those who prayed, those who gave financially. We didn't have any need. The Lord provided in many ways, and we saw the fire. We saw the fire in people that we met, that we were with. So we're just going to get started. We've got a lot of pictures. It was hard to narrow things down, but first picture is us at the Newark Airport. And thank you to Jenny for dropping us off. Thank you for Patty for picking us up.
Thank you.
It was an awesome. So first, of course, we got into Lima, and this is Julio, and he picked us up. He was our tour guide. He was our taxi cab driver. He protected us, took us all over. He stayed with us that first night, and then Lima we spent. You can move on to the next one. We went to a church service that morning, Sunday morning. We got there Saturday night, went to church service Sunday morning, and next one. And I was asked to share, of course, which is normal when a visitor comes. This is Welding Upiachiwa, who is a pastor friend of ours. Patty and I knew him from Tarapoto when we were there as missionaries. And next one. So after lunch, we invited a bunch of people. The way I thought, well, I have so many people I want to see. It had been 24 years since we were there. And there was no way I could see everyone. So we had these dinners and lunches. And I think there was 24 people. You can't even see them all. It's all the way down the end of the room. But we had an awesome, awesome time.
I'm going to let Brian do most of the speaking, but it's important to note he is a celebrity in Peru. People came out of the woodwork to see him.
All right.
Having said that, yes.
Okay, we've got to make a clarification here because I am pastor. I'm not pastor. I am brother Brian. Yes. And who's the pastor? Pastor Dan. And that was his nickname.
People just assumed.
It was like they knew. They said, "Oh, Brian's not the pastor." And it's like, who's the pastor here? It must be Dan. So they started literally introductions, and they're like, "Oh, are you pastor? Are you Pastor Dan?" The next. All right, so we head into Tarapoto. Star Peru was our airline. This is us arriving. This is actually leaving, but the pictures, it was hard to get everything going. So we arrived in Tarapoto. It's called the City of the Palm Trees. Ciudad de las Palmeras. Next. And of course, this is the office of the association, Church Association. Next. And in that building is the radio station. Radio Amistad has been going since we had some involvement there when we were there in '94 to '99. But they have a new location, new equipment. The Lord is blessing them. It's an incredible ministry, as many of us know. Christian radio.
They have air conditioning, too. It was probably the only spot that we had all week.
We enjoyed being there. Next. So we had an interview, of course, and Cesar Villacorta, sitting across from me, he was the key man. He's instrumental in getting the whole radio station started. And he started off by saying, "Oh, remember Brian and all you did?" And I was like, "I didn't do anything. Like, what did I do?" He's like, "Oh, no." He said he remembered that David Hart from West Indies Mission in Haiti had retired, but he had been involved in radio ministry in Haiti, and I contacted him through friends, through the mission. I heard that this guy had some equipment. He ended up bringing that equipment to Tarapoto, and that was their initial equipment that they used at this radio station. And so lots of memories. Keep going. Next one. So this is Daniel Alegria to my right. During the interview, Demosthenes, who was also there, you'll see a picture of him later, he was our photographer and guide and whatever, friend along the way. He said, you're going to meet somebody's going to come that you baptized, when you were here. And I said, I never baptized anyone. Like, I don't remember ever baptizing anyone. And sure enough, we came out of that building and into the office area, and here he was standing there. And talk about embarrassing. It was in 97. He was 18 years old, and yes, I did baptize him. So this is in front of Casa de la Biblia. This is the Christian bookstore next, and that was the new administrator, worker, Nancy. So again, we had some more time with Cesar. It's beautifully situated right on Main Street, the Lord's blessing. And you'll see Lila later, who I left in charge. Next. So this is a lady right in the corner. Just put her in because we reconnected with people that I hadn't seen in over 20 years. Next. And then we made new friends. So we went down to one of the open markets, and all the touristy stuff that is for sale, and we just made new friends. Next. Want to say anything?
No.
Next.
Just see what's in the background there.
So one of Dan's, he was like, let's go through an open
I
market.
love going to open markets whenever I travel, yep.
Yeah. Next. Lots of fruit. A lot of it's imported. It's not all grown there, but it comes from the mountains, from up in the area that different kind of fruits are grown. This is the home that we lived in. It's now a church. It was sold to the missionary family that moved in after we left, and a different mission. But our mission sold it to them. And I just wanted to put this in because in front, to the right, you see these boards. Next picture. This is the hole that I fell in 28 years ago. It hasn't been filled in yet. So they now have somewhat of a sidewalk. Like they are putting in, pavement, but it's a long process. After 28 years. That's the very hole I wrecked my foot on. Okay, next. And of course, my sister's buried there. So that was something I wanted to see. And I actually found out I had a debt.
Yes. Trying to do a good deed, yes.
So the cemetery has become privatized, and they have a fee. Annual fee since 2018. And so thankfully they didn't charge me the whole $400 plus, but it was still a couple $100 that I didn't expect to pay. But the way it started was because my sister's plaque is there. Well, next to her is a missionary, a 40-year-old missionary. He was killed he was driving a motorcycle and killed with a dump truck. And but somebody stole his plaque. So we started looking into how do we get a new plaque for him? And they couldn't find his records. We didn't know when he was born and the date he actually died. But in all of that, we are the missionary that we stayed with. They've agreed that they're going to take care of that aspect. But I did find out that at this debt I had to pay. So next. And Dan was super helpful. I didn't put in the picture of him sweeping.
Yeah, we're sweeping.
He swept it up, cleaned it up for me really good. So this is a trip that we took to where Wildoro is, in Picota. 3 of us crammed in the back. Augusto is on the left of me, and Demosthenes is on the right. So Augusto, he's a longtime friend, and we'll talk more about him later. Next.
Well, just before we move on, I was in the front seat,
Yes.
and I didn't understand 99% of what was said on the whole trip, let alone in the car ride, but these guys, they laughed the whole time. The whole ride. I had no idea what they were saying, but I could feel just the friendship and the passion. It was amazing.
Talk about fire of the Holy Spirit. This man is filled with fire.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah. Next. And this was on the trip. I had to put in a picture of Dan drinking coconut water. Next. So because we weren't able to go upriver to see Cliff, as you know, and I was talking about going up to see our missionary friend Cliff with the audio Bibles, and that never happened. We had some problem with flights, air flights and everything getting in there and out of there. So I said to Eldora, I said, take us on a river trip. Just 20 minutes. So this is our little trip that we went upriver. Next.
Are you going to mention he ran out of gas after?
Oh yeah. So he's heading upriver. 2 minutes up the road, up the river, and all of a sudden, what?
You want to go back? Are you ready to go back?
No, we want to keep going.
I'm out of gas. I got to go back for gas.
So sure enough, we went back. He got his little plastic jug of gallon of gas, and then we headed back upriver and had a nice little ride. Next. And Wildoro. And then we had lunch with Wildoro. His wife is on the end, and then his 2 children are on the right there. Wildoro is just an incredible guy. I just want to say this weekend he is in Udupis, the poster at the back. He's where very few people will go. It's taken him 3 days to get there. 20 hours in 4 different vehicles. He got to the town Friday night at 5 p.m. The last boat left at 3 because it's a 3-hour ride, and they don't want to be on the river in the dark. So he had to wait until Saturday at 3 p.m. to finally get up to this very remote area. And he's taking the audio Bibles in the 2 different languages that I was able to get from a guy here in Montgomeryville that downloads them onto those little devices. They have a solar panel, and each one is a New Testament in these 2 different languages. But Wildoro, he's just full of energy, and he's always on the go. So something that I know that we've been supporting him particularly in his ministry, but really impressed me that we are doing the right thing. We are, us supporting of local and national pastors and missionaries. Julio, who picked us up at the Lima airport, he is a national missionary in a different area of Peru, more in the center, totally different tribal group. Each one is in need of help to continue their ministry and to do what God has called them to do. They need gas money, they need food, they need whatever. But being able to support a local national missionary and pastor is really the right thing for us to do as a church. Next. So this is a quick picture this is a series of pictures. The guy in the red is Augusto. He and his family have started a brand new work in a new area that has no Christian witness, no church at all, and 6 of them have left from their church, that one family. I'll keep going. Next. So this is pretty much the entire family, and 6 of them of the adults, and one actually the baby. So there's 7 are starting this new work. It's about a half-hour drive from where they are. Next. We had an awesome visit with them. Maybe we can play we have 2 videos, and I just want to play real short clips of both of them. Can anyone recognize the song here? By faith, not by sight. And that's their testimony. These people are reaching out into a community that doesn't have the gospel. It's really impactful. Next. The next video. They're musical, they're passionate about sharing the gospel, and they're all involved, the whole family. I don't know what happened there.
I probably took the video. It's probably my
All right,
video.
that's enough. That's enough of that. But do you have any more pictures of the family? Okay. Do you want to share about how they finance?
Sure. So they, he had told me earlier on in the day that they do welding now, and they weld these windows. They don't have any windows. Most of them don't even have any screens. I think it's because it's so hot, but so they have the metal things like you see in New York City, and Augusta started a group to weld these things. And I'm into welding. I want to learn to weld. I'm not very good at it, but I mentioned to him, hey, can you show me your welding shop or whatever? Now there's, I don't know, 20 people sitting in this room, and he gives a universal, 1 minute, I'll be back. And he goes and he comes back with this thing to weld and his welder. And he proceeds to weld right in this middle of their room. And all of us are going like this, like in the heat. You could feel the heat on your leg. And he was all proud of himself. And, I just thought that was pretty interesting Anyway.
So he takes on jobs.
Yep.
And he's paid jobs, and so that's one way that they finance this outreach. And then his wife also sews. She sews ladies' clothes, and so they are doing what they can. It was just really inspiring for me too. So next. All right, so we are back in Lima, and I think I have one picture closer of Leela. Yeah, Leela and Freddie. So when I fell in that hole back in '96, 2 weeks prior, Leela walked through the door and was looking for a job. She was from the local church, and so she says, looking for a job, and gave her a 2-week trial period, and then I fell in the hole, and then she was in charge. And literally, we came home. That was in end of April, May, and then we came home in June, and we were home for 13 months. And she was just a huge blessing. And you saw the bookstore. She's now in Lima, married, but she travels back and forth. She's still the manager, and has hired Nancy, was the girl that was there in front of the store with us. Just been there 4 months, but Leela is still our manager, and is just our manager. It's not I don't have anything to do with the bookstore anymore, but it's just a huge blessing to see the work continuing that we started. Next. So your turn. This is the men's group.
Oh, yeah, so we stayed with a couple by the name of Techi and Delwyn Fowler, and I want to thank them. We had our own rooms, like a suite, and she made breakfast for us every morning, which we felt a little guilty for, but then we really enjoyed, at least I did, the morning discussions from sports to God to where to go see, and it was very interesting. But the end of our trip, so this is Friday night?
Yep.
Friday night. We were going to go out to dinner with him, and there was some complications with going to a restaurant and things like that. So we got pizza, and then he has his men's group. I'll say at what, 8 o'clock? 8 o'clock. And it turns out half of the people there spoke English, which was kind of neat. But we met a lot of nice people, and it was a lot of fun. And met a fellow by the name of Gene, who's from Oregon. His flight was delayed. He couldn't figure out why, but I guess when he got to go to the meeting, he figured it out. And it was just a very special evening. After that, we had to go to a birthday party, but way past my bedtime. But that was fun as well. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was neat to be able to share. He had his testimony, very impactful testimony of growing up in Oregon, and then we each got to share how God was leading and why we were in Peru. So It was awesome. It was the right thing to do. I had an invitation to preach that night, and you know me, I'm like, oh boy, like especially in Spanish. So I had this invitation prior to leaving the U.S., and then when I heard that I was getting invited to preach, I said, well, I got to take the first invitation. I'm not. I kind of got out of the preaching thing. So this way. But it was the right thing to do, and we both really enjoyed it. Next. I just want to say about Josue Espejo on my across from me there. He is the director of, or the president, essentially, of the association churches. There's 124 churches in the association, and it's the same association my parents worked with, same association that started back in the 30s. Two British ladies walked over the Andes Mountains and started the work back in the 30s. And this is the same association was started back then. My parents worked with them in the 60s and 70s, and now he's carrying on. He's the new president. He has a passion and a desire to meet and visit every one of those 124 churches, and some are really far out from the area, but it was just really encouraging to know that the work's going on. Next. Is that it? Okay, that's it. Yep. Thank you again for sending us. Thank you so much for praying for us. And we just both had an awesome time.
Yep,
and again, I just have to say again, if between Julio, between the lady that picked us up at the airport in Tarapoto, Karina, and her new husband, they've started new work in a squatter area, and then Augusto and Nilda, all of them, they're national workers, and then Josue, they're national workers, missionaries, pastors who have a passion for reaching their own people for Christ. And if anyone wants to adopt or help finance some of their outreaches, and it's not just once or twice. They're going every week to these communities in these areas, and they're starting new churches. And if anyone wants to help with that, just talk to me. So, thank you.
Thank you.